This is my first weapon that I ever bought. I bought this weapon back in 1990 in Germany. This is an XR-15 Shorty. We call it a bullpup because this bitch got kicked to it. This bitch will knock you the fuck down. The interesting thing about this weapon is if I pull back the bolt, see that? See the bolt? There's no bullet in there. Pay very close attention. If I'm not paying attention and I take this weapon and I bang it, look what just happened. The bolt goes forward. The weapon has fired. I didn't touch the trigger. I just simply banged it on the table. If you sit down and you bang this on the ground, you will blow your head off. It happens in basic training every day. And you all get a letter and a flag saying your son was killed in a training accident. An old shotgun, if you drop it, it will fire. So don't believe these motherfuckers running around talking about you shouldn't have had your hand on the trigger. You don't have to have your hand on the trigger. Let me show you again. I'm going to sit down. I'm tired. You just committed an incident. Your hand was not on the trigger. Doesn't make a difference whether, and it was on safe. Unless you understand weapons for real. Don't you listen to these motherfuckers who have no intention of ever picking up one and who don't understand that weapons go off by themselves all the time. Now that I've shown you that.
You know what's a telltale sign of narcissistic personality disorder? Habitual lying. Habitual lying. Having the need to lie and exaggerate in order to make oneself seem bigger than they actually are. So I had a couple of NFAC cheerleaders coming in my comment section. Now, this is what I want you guys to understand. I wanted Grandmaster Jay to be successful. I think it's a beautiful thing to have black people exercising their Second Amendment rights, especially in this matriarchal role reversal culture that we've had in the black community for so long that is very anti-Second Amendment and very, we're going to vote for the Democrats and we're going to vote blue and this screwed up situation black men find themselves in, where in one breath, everybody's supposed to advocate for the disarmament of black men, and then in the next breath, we get the busy assignments of, the black woman is not protected and nobody is protecting us because the good black men aren't going out there and purging the community of the Ray Rays and Pookies that we love and desire so much. So I get very frustrated, because I think that there's a lot of problems in the black community that need to be handled and may need to be handled through violent means. Because I already know that there's going to be people that, they like the way that it is. They like the way that the community being broken. They like the way that, respect is dished out in the community and what it's based off of, which really isn't based off of anything tangible. It's just words and feelings and all that stuff. And that's what Grandmaster Jay has tapped into. He is a black man of a previous generation. He's probably in the same category. Was he in his 50s? He's probably in the same category as Kevin Samuels. Same age. Right? Captain Solo's in that cohort as well. Born probably in the late 60s. I'm just guessing. I'm speculating. But I had some people come over that commenters I've never seen before, and they're frustrated with any criticism of the NFAC, and I'm like, you need to get out your feelings. because the video that I did had nothing to do with feelings, and it had nothing to do with attacking Grandmaster Jay on a personal note. See, nobody is exposing Grandmaster Jay. There's no exposure here. The man exposed himself. The man went up there and said things that any soldier should be competent about. You know, the M16, M4 style patterned rifles are the standard issue rifles for the entire U.S. military. And yet this man goes on camera and demonstrates that he is not competent nor proficient in the use of that firearm. He's got another video where he's instructing a black woman on how to use the firearm, and it's like it's all over the place. You know, he's trying to tell her to do multiple things and remember this and remember that. I'm like, man, it's not that difficult. But it's all over the place. Grandmaster Jay should not have to embellish his background. He should not have to embellish his capabilities when putting out, you know, content or putting out videos. You know, there was a point where, you know, I was listening to Grandmaster Jay, and, you know, I'm like, I'm feeling you, I'm feeling you, I'm feeling you, I'm with you, I'm feeling you, I'm feeling you, and then he just goes completely left. And I'm like, yo, I was getting kicked off of YouTube for way less shit. So, like, right off top, I'm like, it's kind of suspect. That's kind of suspect. But my thing is, you know, why is it necessary to blatantly lie? This is a holdover from previous generations with old niggas. I seen this shit go down in barbershops. Like, these young boys today, you know, my generation and below, and I'm not considering myself a young boy, but I'm saying my generation and below, you know what I'm saying? We grew up in the era of, you know, cell phones and information. Like, it's at our fingertips. You know what I'm saying? You say some bullshit, we can immediately pull it up and look at it and reference it in real time. In real time. I've seen a lot of old niggas get embarrassed. They come through and they talking some dumb shit, trying to gain some, you know, clout with the young boys and saying they did this and what you know about that, son, what you know about that, son. You know, they come through and talking all that other shit. Niggas be pulling this shit up like, nigga, you just said this, and that's not even the facts. You know, just not even shit about firearms. Shit like about automobiles or cars or whatever. They're like, yo, they didn't even make this model. They discontinued this car between this year and this year. So how are you saying you had this car when you was 18 and you was riding around, you was stunting and you was doing this and that and the third, and they didn't even have that. I mean, this goes back to Dame Dash and Dame. Where did you get your money from to start your business and contribute to or create freaking, you know, Rockefeller Records? I took the money and I flipped it. I took the money and I flipped it. You know, he just, yeah, man, I was, you know, that had everybody thinking that he was just in the barbershop sweeping up, you know, hair and he saved up enough money, you know, to buy a whole bunch of T-shirts and then flip that and then buy a whole bunch of CDs with Jay-Z and then flip that and then bam, Rockefeller Records. Like, that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Dame Dash was moving weight. And see, and this is why a lot of these old ass niggas don't get respect, because y'all some habitually lying ass motherfuckers. Y'all just keep lying, and then the thing is like it's so easy to catch you in a lie. You're like Donald Trump. You're so arrogant that you go up and you just say shit. You don't even take time to look up the facts. And that's what I don't understand. Like if the young boys are taking the time to fact check your shit, why don't you take 5 seconds to get your facts straight? That way, when you present them, you don't end up looking like an asshole. You know what I'm saying? One of my subscribers wrote in the comment section, they were like, yo, that AR-15 that he's holding in that video, that shit has a flat top receiver with the Picatinny rail. I paused the video at 1 minute and 13 seconds. And there it is. Flat top, upper receiver on the this AR-15 variant that he has with a removable carry handle. Now, if you ever want to know the difference between Vietnam era, M16 variants versus, let's say, a M16 that was built, in the early 2000s, is one has an integral carry handle, the other one has a flat top receiver with the Picatinny rail, so that they can mount optics on it, red dots and all that stuff. They didn't have red dots in the 70s in Vietnam, so they had to use the iron sights. They had to use the peepholes, okay, to aim at their targets in the Vietnamese jungles, or the jungles of Vietnam, right? And Grandmaster Jay, he said he bought that gun in Germany in 1990. 1990. Well, I went and I said, well, when did they come out with Picatinny rails? I go on Wikipedia, type it up, Picatinny rail. Picatinny rails were not even developed, didn't even begin development until 1992. And then they weren't even issued to soldiers until 1995. So how does this man have a AR-15 with a bull barrel, mind you, an AR-15 with a bull barrel that he claims that he bought in Germany? I don't know where there's a Second Amendment in Germany where you can just walk in the store and buy some, but I'm like, fuck it, I'll go with that, because I know some shady shit that goes on in the military, and people bringing souvenirs back from war and stuff like that. It happens, it happens. Hell, you can go over there on Forgotten Weapons, and he'll tell you about how they do it. I was just watching a video the other day about how they were putting cuts in these bolt action rifles so that they could, basically, because the longest part of the gun, once you take the action out, that's short, but the longest part of the gun tends to be the stock. So they got to cut the stocks in half so that they can put it in a duffel bag. It's called a duffel cut, right? So the GIs did bring stuff back from, Germany, but you're talking about World War II. You know what I'm saying? I'm supposed to be expected that this man brought back an AR-15 from Germany in the 90s with a flat top Picatinny rail that wasn't issued to U.S. troops until 1995 and was only developed in 1992, which is 2 years after he claims that he bought the gun. I'm like, come on, that's a blatant lie. And my thing is just like, why is it necessary to lie like that? Like that's some old Donald Trump shit. Like, bro, why are you lying? Oh, I had I had more people standing out there than Barack Obama. It's like, no, you didn't. I can take the inauguration pictures of Barack Obama and his audience versus the inauguration pictures of you and the on the whatever you call that shit, the whatever lawn that people stand in front of, for the inauguration. It's night and day. One is just, it just looks like a whole sea of just like white snow on the ground. The other one, you can see where there's grass and dirt and everything else during Trump's inauguration. Just blatant lie. That's narcissistic personality disorder. And like I said, these young boys, like it's a different generation. That whole getting up on the microphone and saying shit that moves black people, young black folks ain't going for that shit no more. You know what I'm saying? You say some shit, somebody's fact checking. If you got a room full of, 20 niggas, you know what I'm saying? 5 of them motherfuckers is fact checking whatever it is that you're saying. And they'll be sitting there emailing, passing that shit around and continue to let you talk, or text message, whatever, and continue to let you talk about stuff that you don't know what you're talking about. And they're just going to sit there and listen and let you dig yourself further and further and further in a hole. I don't understand why it's necessary to do that. That's my big issue, And then my other issue is the fact, look, all these white boys are sitting on the sidelines. They are waiting for any sort of black organization and militia to make mistakes. They're waiting to make Grandmaster Jay look incompetent. And you know what's funny? Looking at all the videos, they're doing it delicately. Many of them have stated that they don't agree with the tenets of the NFAC, right? Because obviously they're white and, they want to maintain the status quo and everything. So I don't expect them to co-sign that. But what I will give them respect on is the fact that, it's about them supporting the Second Amendment. I will give them respect on that fact. In other words, yeah, we don't agree what his tenets are and what he believes in, what he's doing, or reparations, or taking Texas, or any of that other shit. We don't agree with that, but we do support his right and his ability to go out there and march, because they know that reflects on their ability and right to go out there and march. There's enough white people in the Second Amendment community that know that on this issue they need to be philosophically consistent. They cannot sit there and say, no guns for blacks, but it's okay for us to have guns, because the left will call them out on that, and they don't want that. So they're going to be, ain't no racism over here, okay? And again, there's when you're a true gun owner, gun enthusiast, whatever you want to call it, there is an understanding between both black and white that the enemy to the Second Amendment is the left. Is the radical left. That's the enemy of the Second Amendment. And so you don't want to say anything, even as a black person, you're trying to convince other black people about embracing the Second Amendment. And you got to counter all those lies and narratives that the left tries to perpetrate. Guns go off by themselves, fully semi-automatic. You got to counter all that stuff. And yet here you got Grandmaster Jay sitting up there saying guns go off by themselves. I mean, if that didn't sound like some shit that freaking some reporter on MSNBC or CNN would say, I don't know what was. I don't know what is. I'm like, damn, dude. And you supposed to be, a soldier. You got Marines that go and they when they go to basic training, they have to assemble and disassemble an AR-15 in the dark. In the dark. You see what I'm saying? I don't understand why it's necessary to lie. Grandmaster Jay can be just as effective doing everything. He could have been an accountant, on Wall Street or something, and just said, hey, I'm sick of all this racist shit I'm seeing out here in the street, and we're going to have a militia and this, that, and the third, and we done got training and everything, and, hey, I even went to James Yeager's freaking tactical response and got training, and he didn't know what I was on, but here I am, you know what I'm saying? Like, he could have easily done some shit like that. Like, you don't need to be, I'm this badass military person. You don't need to be all that. All you gotta do is have the fucking will to go out there and be like, yo, stop fucking with us, because we will respond. Stop fucking with us. But see, like, he's not even doing it right. Where it's like, I'm like, what is with all this extra sauce, man? Cut the extra sauce out. Cut all the grandstanding and all this lying and exaggerating and everything, because everybody's watching you. So everything that you say, it's not like when you get up and on the stand, because I've seen a couple of videos, he up there talking, telling people Malcolm X died in 1969, talking about the Rodney King was beat in 1990. Rodney King was beat in 1991, and the race riots in L.A. happened in 1992 because the officers were acquitted. You know what I mean? So I'm like, and I'm saying that's not, that's like right up, he was in his prime at that time. So I'm like, you should know what year that happened. But see, the thing is he's so this is the problem I have. It's like he's so arrogant and there's so much grandstanding that he doesn't even take the time to get his facts straight. Do you want to follow somebody or have a commanding officer or whatever of somebody who can't even get their facts straight? They're so lazy they can't even get their facts straight on basic stuff that you don't even have to lie about. All you got to do is take 2 seconds, whip out your cell phone, and look it up. He got a cell phone. He up there posting shit on live chat. I'm like, nigga, you got a cell phone, which means you got Google, which means all you got to do is type some shit in and say, hey, you know what? I forgot what year that was that this and this happened. Let me go double check. Or I'm going to lie about some shit. Let me go and make an elaborate lie, but let me at least make sure that certain facts align, at least the superficial ones, so that I have at least several barriers, within my lie before people actually discover that I'm actually lying. Like, no. No, this is the epitome of narcissistic personality disorder because they're so focused on being in the spotlight, getting the attention, the grandstanding, getting the respect, feeling like people recognize who they are. They don't care that their facts are inaccurate or off or erroneous. They don't care. They're just going to say it and stand there with the chest out and throw that deep baritone in their voice and just stand there all erect like I said it, therefore it is. And I'm like, no. Again, you dealing with young boys now that, it's like what I said about Apollo 13. Failure is not an option. Power is everything. We got to bring them down to 12 amps. You can't run a vacuum cleaner on 12 amps, John. No, we got to bring them down to 12 amps. Power is everything. If they don't have power, they can't communicate with us. They can't change their trajectory. They can't turn around their heat shields. Power is everything. Or the scene from the Titanic with Sir Andrews. The captain of the ship was like, what about the pumps? And he was like, the pumps only buy you time, minutes at best. That's what you're now dealing with. You're not dealing with people who, aren't going to look some shit up. It only takes 5 seconds to look some shit up. As soon as he said, "Oh, I bought this in 1990," you know what my first Google search was? What are the gun laws in Germany? Or what were the gun laws in Germany in 1990? Like, I'm like, if you gonna say some shit and come up with a lie like that, why would you use something that somebody can immediately try to like look up in Google, or something that just doesn't sound right, so it makes you go off and Google it? You know what I'm saying? Or once the brother pointed out that had a removable carry handle, which means it had a flat top receiver. I'm like, all I did was go, well, when did they come up with Picatinny rails? Because clearly you can't buy a rifle that has Picatinny rail before the Picatinny rail is even a thing, unless this nigga got some type of wicked time machine or something. You know what I'm saying? He went to the future, took the gun from 1995, and then went in the past and then 1990, and then claimed that he bought it in 1990 or gave it to himself in 1990 on some Biff Tannen shit. You see what I'm saying? Like the almanac. You know what I mean? I'm like, bro, why is it necessary to lie? Why is it necessary to go to all these lengths? He brought up the XR-15. XR-15, the only manufacturer of XR-15 was Saber Defense, which is what they called their AR-15 variant. But what connection that has to do with Germany, I have no clue. On top of the fact that the rifle that he has, you know what it really looks like? It looks like a Colt match competition rifle. That's what it looks like, which has a bull barrel and a heavy barrel because it's a competition rifle. It's for accuracy and shooting, right? So the thicker the barrel, the less the freaking circular vibration. Because if you ever look at a gun being fired in slow motion, okay, that barrel whips. It whips. I mean, it vibrates and whips. You know what I mean? Like the whole gun looks like it's going to shake itself apart if you watch, a gun be fired, at however many tens of thousands of frames per second. You'll see it. It'll just whip. The whole thing is like, damn, that's what the guns do. Yeah, every time the gun fires, it shakes, which is why when it comes to accuracy, people talk about, minute of angle and what was your group, what was your 5-shot group, because again, most guns are going to vibrate. That barrel is going to be whipping around in a circular motion. You're shooting a projectile down a barrel that is, it's spinning, and that's going to put spin on the barrel. And so therefore that barrel is just, again, you got to look at it in slow motion. You'll see it's whipping around. So a bull barrel, which is a heavier, thicker barrel, more material, less vibration, less whipping, better accuracy. You see, and I mean, notice the fluidity with which I'm speaking when it comes to, the firearms. I'm not a firearms expert. This is basic knowledge. And so for him to come on there and say that you're going to have a negligent discharge because you smack an AR-15 down, which is how the gun chambers around in the first place, is nonsensical. He's conflating an open bolt gun with a closed bolt gun. You know what I'm saying? Open bolt guns are your machine guns. Those guns are they're open bolt because they're air cooled. Because a machine gun is firing so many rounds that the barrel gets hot, the chamber gets hot, the bolt gets hot, and all that stuff. And you don't want a bullet sitting in the round after you done cracked off 200 rounds. You don't want a bullet just sitting in the round of a hot ass chamber, because you're going to have what's known as a cook off. Not a slam fire, a cook off. The bullet's just sitting there. It's so hot in the chamber that the round friggin' just self ignites, and you get a bullet that comes out of that chamber without anybody touching the trigger. A slam fire, a slam fire, which is what he was talking about, because of this woman had an old shotgun, which I believe a slam fire. I'm not saying it wasn't a slam fire, but for him to use the AR-15 as an example and then say that just because the bolt closed that would have been a negligent discharge, I'm like, dude, that's totally erroneous. And I'm saying at no part did he clarify or say, I'm just using this gun as an example. I'm not saying that this gun would be a slam fire, but the gun that the woman had that she used was a slam fire, and that's why the round went off. I totally believe that. I totally buy that. Because some of those older guns, the design is completely different. Slam fire is a real thing. You can go and watch what's his name? The something Boy Scout. He's got a YouTube channel. Type in C308, which is a set-me rifle. Which is one of the it's like a PTR 308 rifle. Same things, set-me rifles, all the same thing. They're basically HK 91s. Or HK 93s, whichever variant you want to talk about. But he had a couple slam fires. And they're known for, those set-me rifles are known for slam fires. When you close that bolt, you hit that slap, it's like an MP5, you slap the damn gun, and the bolt goes forward. And, he had, when he was at the range and he was shooting, he had a slam fire. He just closed the bolt and the thing went bam, but luckily he had it pointed down range, right? And then he tried to get it to do again and reproduce, and he couldn't get it to slam fire, but you could see that there was an indentation on the primer because the firing pin protrudes and sticks out on that design of that gun. That gun is known to have a slam fire, okay? But the AR-15 is not known to, if you got a slam fire on an AR-15, you got a broken AR-15. There's something wrong with your AR-15, namely something wrong with the firing pin or something wrong with the hammer. One of those two things. And numerous men have already made videos on YouTube pointing this out. This is embarrassing, y'all. This isn't about a personal attack on Grandmaster Jay and all that other shit. That's not what it's about. This is embarrassing. Okay, this is the first time that we've really had black men in recent history, show a demonstration of force, through firearms. And hey, we about that Second Amendment too. Stop fucking with us. Okay, and here you got this guy goes up there doing a whole bunch of extra shit and is demonstrating incompetence when it comes to the very firearms that he's advocating for black people to use. That's not a good look. I don't care how you want to dice it up. It's not a good look. This is it's a problem. Again, nobody outed, Grandmaster. He's outing himself because he's so arrogant. He just gets on the mic and thinks that he can just say anything and people ain't going to cross-reference his shit. You know what I'm saying? This is not the 70s. This is not the 80s. This is not the 90s. This ain't even the early 2000s. It's 2020. People are going to fact check your shit. If you say something and people are like, wait a minute, did he just say, if you say anything that makes the hairs on the back of their neck jump up and makes them get, have that squinty face and raise an eyebrow, okay, you better believe people are going to look up what you said, especially when it's, on the internet for the world to see and constantly repeat. See, this was so fucked up about it because that NFAC negligent discharge and Grandmaster Jay going up there talking, what he's talking about, demonstrating that he doesn't know what he's talking about in reference to an AR-15, all the white boys are going to be using them clips forever. They're going to be using them clips forever, just like that politician in California that was like, there's two of them. One of them was like, no, I think she was from Colorado, but she was like, if a barrel shroud is the thingy that goes up and over the shoulder or something like that. She was like, yeah, that's what a barrel shroud is. She didn't know what the fuck she was talking about. And then you got the other politician, Hispanic dude in California that was talking about, what did he say? He was like, 30 round magazine. What did he say? He was like 30 round magazine drum clip, or something like that. Just talking nonsense. Just shoots. He gave some ridiculous high rate of fire. That shoots. Thousands of rounds per second and everything. And it's a semi-automatic gun, and he was just up there, just making shit up, just making shit up. And it shows you, it demonstrates how much the left is trying to, and that's what really incensed a lot of people in the Second Amendment community, because the left likes to do that all the time. It's like, look, if you're going to take my rights away, you're going to take my rights away on some valid shit. You're not going to come through and take my rights away based on nonsensical shit that you just literally pulled out of your ass because you want to paint the AR-15 or any semi-automatic rifle as the most evil thing in the universe. Like, we're not going to let you do that. You're not going to sit there and try to conflate fully automatic when semi-automatic, when fully automatic guns, have been restricted since the freaking Hughes Amendment in what was that, 1986? Okay, they've been restricted since the Hughes Amendment. They're not banned, contrary to what the media loves to say. They're not banned. They're heavily restricted because basically only rich people can have fully automatic weapons now because they're basically cost prohibitive. But had they wrote a bill and said only rich people can have fully automatic weapons, because essentially that's what it is. Only rich people can have fully automatic weapons because, all of those weapons that were built prior to 1986 that are fully automatic are now, they're collector's items. So now you want a fully automatic M16, $20,000. $30,000, probably even more now with the whole pandemic going, the pandemic and everything. Probably up around $50,000 for a Vietnam era. Nothing special about it. No thrills. No nothing. Fully automatic M16. Who's got $50,000 lying around for that shit? So I know some billionaire probably does. You see, but if anybody said only the super wealthy can have fully automatic weapons, nobody would go for that. But when they came through and they made the Hughes Amendment and they said, oh, we're going to restrict it and we're going to make it an NFA item and da-da-da-da-da, all that was designed to price the poor people out of the room, the working class people out of the room. That's what the original, what was that? 1934 bill? What was that? What bill was that? Was it 1934 or 1938? I think it was 1934. The first gun act. Because they were dealing with prohibition and freaking the Valentine's Day massacre and Chicago police, being outgunned and whatnot. They created the $200 tax stamp. $200 back in the 1930s, that's a lot of money. So it was designed to price people out of the market. I mean, $200 is still a lot of money today, but they haven't adjusted for inflation. You know what I'm saying? If they adjusted for inflation, that $200 might be, I don't know, $5,000. Who's gonna SBR their rifle on for $5,000? Nobody. That's why the ATF right now is running around trying to relook at the braces, the SIG braces. They want the SBA 3 brace. I think is the one that they want to look at, because nobody is SBRing their rifles anymore. Everybody's either doing pistols or they're doing others, and that's what they're doing so that they can have a rifle that has or a gun that functions as a rifle that has less than 16-inch barrel. That's why they're doing that. You see, but the other thing, and this is like probably my last point, the other thing that upsets me about Grandmaster Jay's commentary is you have a lot of people that are now being introduced to firearms, and you cannot have somebody trying to teach people about firearms when they know nothing about firearms themselves, or they are not as proficient as they claim by themselves. If I didn't know anything about the AR-15 and I listened to Grandmaster Jay while he's standing up there holding his XR15 that he bought in Germany in 1990 with the Picatinny rail. If I listened to him, then I would believe that I would have to walk around with my AR-15 with the bolt open, and and I don't even have to pull the trigger. All I gotta do is drop the bolt. I hit the bolt release, and then bam, the bolt goes forward, and that's how I fire my first shot. So I walk around with the bolt open, charging handle forward, and then I go, oh my God, a threat, and I turn, point the gun, and then I hit the bolt release, and then the bolt goes forward, and then bam, that's my first shot. And then I get the bolt's going to come back, and then what? I just keep hitting the bolt release as opposed to hitting the trigger so that I get a slam fire every time. Like, is that how it works? I mean, that just totally overrides the trigger. That doesn't even make any sense. This is what we're talking about, people. This is not about trying to undermine. Oh, this is what black people do, and they're coons and they're crabs in the barrel, and then you're trying to undermine. No, no, no. I'm not playing that game. Okay, we need to have competent people as it pertains to the Second Amendment. I think my fucking neighbors are like fighting or some shit. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I hear all this fucking noise through the fucking wall and whatnot. But I'm just saying, this is the whole aspect of being competent and being proficient. You need to know what you're talking about. Especially when you're talking about firearms and you're talking about safety and you're talking about responsible gun ownership and whatnot, which again, black people have to demonstrate. Black people have to show in order for for the not to be attacked by the left. For in order for the left to not have an easy angle to be like, oh, see, this is why we need to ban everything. Because that negligent discharge, I guarantee you the left is going to be up there talking about, yeah, see, we have to ban firearms from all public spaces because, I mean, look what happened with the NFAC. That's another reason why the white boys is upset. Because again, regardless of whatever militia is out there, any armed people out there, because they know if the laws come down, the way the liberals are going to write the laws, the liberals are not going to say, okay, black people, you can't publicly display firearms, but white people, you're good. No, it's going to be ban open carry, in protest across the board. And the white folks, they don't want that. So when you look at these videos are not like, oh, there's black NFAC, racist organizations, da 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 da. If they talk about that, they're talking about that in a separate video. As it pertains to Grandmaster Jay's lack of knowledge on a firearm, that's what they're talking about. That's why they're worried about what he demonstrated, because he's just like any other militia. It doesn't matter if the freaking 3%ers went out there and they had a negligent discharge. That's not a good look for the gun community. If who else goes out there? If what other group will go out there? The Boogaloo Boys. If they went out there and they had a negligent discharge, that's not going to be a good look for the gun community. I mean, hell, that dude in in Seattle or Portland, Oregon, wherever it was, the white boy that got the sister that doesn't have any legs, that got killed. You know what I mean? That whole situation is not a good look for the gun community. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, okay, what happened? Who shot who? What happened? Like on all parties, whether it's the dude that shot him from the car or whether, he went to the car and then, was threatening the driver, whatever. We don't know what the details were because you can't even see what's going on in the video. But I'm saying overall, it's a bad look for the gun community. People that are talking all this stuff about self-defense and everything else like that, that's the best angle that they have. That it's about self-defense, that it's about, what if the police don't come? That's the best angle that they have. But when you have people out here misusing firearms or you being negligent with their firearms or being irresponsible with their firearms, all that does is give the left another angle to attack the Second Amendment on. And the Second Amendment, I don't care what your favorite color is. The Second Amendment is something that has to be protected on both sides. And I've been saying this. You get a whole bunch of black people that come through like, man, I'm just gonna ride dirty, man. I don't care, nigga. You won't be able to buy the guns to ride dirty if they say, okay, we're gonna have an assault weapons ban. Basically, what you have is what you have, and as we know, all that shit is just gonna float on the black market, and then all the law-abiding people won't be able to go and buy your AR-15 or whatever. But Ray Ray and Pookie will still have, the AR-15s that were floating around from the year 2020. You know what I'm saying? Let's say it's like the year 2060 or the year 2050 and everything. Those illegal firearms will still be floating around on the market. They're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? The friggin' Ray Ray and Pookie have no reason to comply. They're not gonna comply. It's not about them complying. No, they're gonna bury that shit in the backyard. They're gonna have that shit behind the drywall. They're gonna have that shit underneath the wood planks of the floor and shit. They're gonna have that shit in the ceiling. They're gonna have that shit everywhere. You know what I mean? So again, there's an issue, and this is again another issue that people are identifying is if you're really a part of the Second Amendment community, which any black militia should be. It doesn't matter what your political affiliation is or what your leanings are or what your belief systems are. That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. The number one goal that everybody can agree on is preservation of the Second Amendment to begin with. And to have somebody up there who's talking from the standpoint of using these sort of talking points that are leftist talking points recklessly, it's like, wow, you saying the same thing that they trying to say on MSNBC and CNN. That's just wholly untrue. This idea that, guns jump off of the table and they shoot you and everything else like that. Again, that further highlights that Grandmaster Jay is not real. Not only is he not a part of the Second Amendment community, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. Which is problematic on multiple fronts. But anyway, I gotta get ready to go. That's all I gotta say. That's my video. I hope there's not any fucking domestic violence going on right now. Coronavirus, there might be, but I'm hearing a lot of fucking noise on the other side of the fucking wall. So anyway, that's all I gotta say. That's my video. SWP out.